Time for Ask Annex. As always, get a question for us. You head to our website, annexwealth.com. Look for the Ask tab. In the studio, Fred Coleman, Wealth Manager and a CFP at Annex Wealth Management. Hey, Fred.
Hey, Danny.
Matt Morzy is Director of Research, also a CFP. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Danny.
Question 1. Thanks for this show. I'm a new listener. Female, 34, single. I'm saving and investing, but aren't sure if I should divide my investments or keep them separate depending on my goals. I'd like to buy a home, but I also want to prepare for life after working. Right now, I'm just making the biggest pile I can and will decide when I need to.
Excellent, excellent. We like new listeners, so thanks for listening. I think the most important thing is to continue to save as much as possible and invest, but there's also some strategy that goes into it to make sure that you're maximizing what you're saving. A strategy that I would recommend for you is that bucket strategy. So looking at 3 different buckets, looking at short-term needs, medium-term needs, and then long-term needs. So short-term, that's going to be anything that you need from the next few weeks, emergency fund, all the way up to maybe 1 or 2 years. Medium-term, we want to gain a little bit off of that, but don't want to put too much at risk. So that's where I would say your house will fall into play. So maybe putting that into an income-producing asset, or whether it's fixed income, or maybe a small stock allocation. And then a long-term bucket. That bucket is where you want to put your retirement assets. That bucket is going to be focused on growth. We know that it's going to fluctuate, but the main goal is to grow over time. Where the strategy comes in at is to know how much you should put in each one of those buckets, and then also knowing when to move money around from each bucket. And that's where Annex comes into play at.
Yeah, that's planning.
The second layer to that is how are you actually going to do it, right? So there's saving versus investing. So like you're laying out short term, you probably really just want to have that in a checking or savings account. You want to get some interest on it, but you're really not taking any risk to it. If you think there's a portion of that it's going to be, kind of maybe between short and medium, you can start thinking of money markets or CDs, stuff like that, get a little higher interest rate, and you kind of keep moving that ball down the road when you come to that. I'd also be looking at what types of accounts you're using for that as well, too. Again, short term is going to be at your bank, but if it's long term and, hey, I want to have some of this set aside for retirement, that's where you're looking at a traditional IRA versus a Roth IRA. You certainly want to look at, the tax efficiency of those types of accounts and how does that look within your financial picture as well, too. It does tend to get pretty complicated. So coming in is the right approach and sitting down with somebody like Fred and structuring that the right way. But you're really setting up time frame to when are you going to need it? How much risk are you willing to take? And is there ways to improve your tax picture based on that as well, too? But the fact that you're saving and getting started and trying to do all those things is just awesome.
Next up on Ask Annex, my grandson is in a situation where he maxes out his Roth IRA, has $30K in a brokerage account plus $30K in his bank account. He knows he has too much sitting in the bank, but was just pitched life insurance as an investment and retirement strategy. It seems there are better options.
I would agree that there definitely are better options. The way that I like to look at it is investments and life insurance, they serve 2 different purposes. And most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, it's best to keep them separate. So you got to keep in mind that the primary use of life insurance is to ensure if you pass, to make sure that your family is okay or that your income is replaced. You didn't mention any kids, didn't mention any family. Not sure if that applies to you or not, but even if it does, you can still fulfill that need with term life insurance, which is going to be far cheaper. You're not going to have to worry about paying the commissions or fees. And then the additional money that you would have put in the whole life insurance policy, you can invest that.
I typically go, but insurance is insurance and investing is investing. You certainly want to keep those apart. There are ways to put it together. I get that, but that's just, not what I would prefer. Knowing that your Roth is maxed out and you're doing really well there, taxable accounts can be a great place to do other investing. Depending on health insurance, options. If you had an HSA, you want to make sure that's invested as well too. But ultimately in a taxable account, you can invest for the future there. Probably going to be somewhat of a set and forget it or low turnover type investments at this point in time. With that, there's probably not much taxation that you're going to have to worry about on top of the dividends and interest that you would get. But I would just keep building that over and over and over again. Make sure you have the flexibility that you want there, be able to pull out that money if you need it, but to stay away from trying to invest inside a life insurance plan. I think you're going to be in better shape.
And sir, if you may grant me this, if your grandson is single we just happen to have met a 34-year-old female who is single who seems to have her financial goals in order.
We might have a new title to the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it sounds like a nice combination there.
That would be very nice. Fred Coleman, Wealth Manager, CFP at Annex Wealth Management. Thanks.
Thanks, Danny.
Matt Morzy, Director of Research, CFP. Thank you.
Thank you.